Just knowing that you have bladder issues, especially if you have urinary urgency, where you have sudden urges to go to the bathroom, or you feel like you have to go to the bathroom a ton of times during the day, that's stressful. And it doesn't help things when you know that stress actually makes your symptoms worse. I'm Holly McDonald. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I help people who have bladder urgency and frequency manage their symptoms so that they can live a normal life. And it can be frustrating because we have stressors all the time: work, time, social pressures, family. Even when you love them, they can be stressful. And that stress can make your symptoms bloom out of control. And one of my patients was asking, why is that? Why does stress make my symptoms that much worse? Like, what's actually happening? So, stress causes a chain reaction of things to happen in the body. When you're truly stressed, then your body responds to that. You may have heard of the fight or flight response. That is a physical response that our body has to being stressed. I read a study that said the average American had over 18 fight or flight responses per day. Now, this study was written before COVID, so it might even be worse now. But that fight or flight response, it has increased muscle tension, it reduces digestion, it increases cortisol, it gets us ready to fight or to run away. And if we were being attacked by a bear, this is a great response for us to have. But our bodies are not really designed to be attacked by the bear 18 times a day. And the body can't tell the difference between an actual physical threat and a mental one, like a deadline or your child crying. And that fight or flight response causes a few things to happen with your bladder. These are protective responses that your body does for survival, even when your life isn't at stake. For example, you might have increased muscle tension. Now, some people hold the tension from stress in their shoulders, and some people hold their stress in their back, and some people hold their stress in their pelvic floor. I have a couple of people who actually hold their stress in their buttock, and that's a recipe for constipation, but that's a story for another day. And another protective response that our body has is pain. Your body can send a pain signal when it feels threatened, even if there isn't any tissue damage. That patient who was asking me about stress and her symptoms, she knew that her bladder pain and her vulvodynia would get worse if she was under a lot of stress. Because when that fight or flight response kicked in, she would get increased muscle tension, and her body started sending signals that things were painful as a response to being threatened. And when your nervous system starts to move into that sympathetic mode and feel threatened, it starts to really pay attention, like more than usual. We call this hypervigilance. It's a normal response when we're under threat. It's listening and noticing more carefully and thoroughly. It's like in a regular day, I might not notice the sounds that my house makes, the creaks, the squeaks, the noises. But after that horror movie the other night, I was hearing everything. The squeak of the door, my dog turning over in the bed, the clock ticking. And I was having a physical response to that. I knew I was safe in my home, but my heart was racing. And the more I paid attention, the more things I noticed. Stress affects your bladder symptoms the same way. You get into fight or flight mode, and by the way, the actual term is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So you may not have your heart racing at the time. You may not feel openly threatened, but if your body is responding to stress, you are probably responding in one of those categories. So you get increased tension, you get increased pain, and now your brain is paying attention to every little nuance of your symptoms, which makes them seem even louder. Now, this isn't all in your head. These are actual physical responses to what you're experiencing, thinking, feeling at this point. What you tell yourself about your condition really matters. My patient with IC and vulvodynia, she understood that stress made it worse, and that was stressful. But when she started to see that she could influence her symptoms, that she could have some control over them, just knowing that began to reduce her stress, which began to reduce her symptoms. And what you need to know is that you can get better. You can find ways to start to influence your symptoms. And you don't have to be able to eliminate stress from your life in order to be able to see benefits. I mean, who would be able to do that? But the more steps you take, the better it gets. If you want to learn more about bladder health and pelvic health, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.